Ramble review for this movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Years in the making. Finally got to watch it. I've seen it once, well, technically one and a half. When I first started this, the servers crashed. It released at 2 a.m. today, as of March 18th, and this movie is phenomenal. And we'll get to that in just a minute. We'll talk about everything regarding that specifically. But what we're going to talk about, we're going to be here for a while because this is a 4-hour movie. I've taken notes, my thoughts on it, personal thoughts, so on and so forth. So if you're in for a ride, if you're watching this as a video, I'll try to put some chapters down below at some point. We'll probably have some folks pop in today. We'll see. I wanted to do this live because we're kind of, going through it. So just bear with me and then we'll get started. And if you're watching this video, jump ahead about 5 minutes. We'll be getting into it. Okay, y'all bear with me. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. It looks like some stuff may be messing up. Bear with me. We'll get there. See, it's reading God of War, and it's not God of War because Restream failed to update. So let me get this corrected, and then we will move on. Okay, so we got a few things to discuss. Basically, what we're going to be getting into is the overall movie, and then a bunch of other things. Later on, we'll be doing some Pokemon, but this is for a Ramble review. Ramble reviews are essentially unscripted, basically. I've taken some notes and done different things. Unscripted, basically. Okay, a little bit of loop back there, but that's all right. Okay, I think we're good to go. Hopefully everything's saved on YouTube, but we'll see how everything goes. But yeah, so essentially what we're doing is we're just talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was fucking phenomenal, if I'm being honest. I loved it. And it meant a lot to me in a lot of ways. It really did. So, why is that showing? Hold on a minute. What is that? I don't know what that is. Okay. I don't know what that was. My bad. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that's essentially what we're getting into. To note, I wanted to, before we get into this, before we start talking about the film and everything else related to it, what one general note: Marvel versus DC. This has been an ongoing thing with people ever since the Snyder. You see it a lot on Twitter, especially, but Twitter can be especially what's the word? Volatile, I think, especially when it comes to discussion. Um, it's a creative studio. Slow down. I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. We'll be getting into it, I promise. I can't set a thumbnail. Okay, I'll have to do this later. I don't know why, but it won't let me do thumbnail. It's really weird. All right, well, anyway. So, yeah, so basically, a lot of people going to Marvel versus DC, right? Look, here's the thing. They talk Avengers versus Justice League. They talk DC versus Marvel. This is mainly due to the cinematic universe, but let me just say this on my part. They're both night and day, literally. DC is Gotham City, dark and killer. Marvel is Metropolis, light and hopeful. Now that's for the DC fans. You see the comparison I'm getting to here. Basically, Marvel is very bright and hopeful with shades of darkness. DC is very dark and gritty with shades of light. When it comes to the characters, DC is gods trying to be human overall. Marvel is humans trying to be gods overall. That's just what it breaks down to. So I just want to get that out of the way. Now, as for the movie, this thing, was I get my directions straight? Fantastic reviews so far. As of this recording, it is 78% tomato and 97% viewer, over 5,000 reviews of viewer choice on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, Rotten Tomatoes really has become a bit outdated, but it's still a pretty decent standard to go by. Especially since in the beginning, Rotten Tomatoes, gonna get a little conspiratorial, was actually against some of the DC universe, especially Zack Snyder. I don't know why, but some of the critics are really biased against Snyder. I personally don't get it, but I'm kind of biased myself because I love the guy. He's a fantastic director, fantastic visionary. He's done the DC universe justice, no pun intended, in my opinion, and it's just been fantastic. So again, fantastic reviews for this movie, which is awesome to see because the 2017 Justice League. Look, I love the movie, I really do. I I was a big fan of Joss Whedon um, for a while, and how dirty he did these characters in the 2017 version. He robbed Cyborg, he robbed Flash. I understand that he was trying to condense it down to so much time, but my God, Justice League. I I still give the movie a 3 out of 5, but that's only because I'm a DC fan. So I don't know. After watching this movie, there's no going back. There is no going back whatsoever. So, hey, Batman, how you doing, dude? Good to see you. So yeah, there's that. So overall with the movie, there's been complaints about the slow motion capture in the movie. And it's true, there is slow motion, and a lot of people have been complaining about it. But I would argue it serves a purpose. Um, Most of the shots are meant to present a deeper showing of what's happening, and or allow the audience to take it in. There's a lot going on in this film. There is a lot going on in this film, especially for 4 hours. Um, but it's a long movie, and slow motion is a great tool for people to play a little bit of mental catch up while they're watching a beautiful action shot happening in slow motion, and they're saying, "Okay, what just happened in the back of my head?" Playing catch up. As a society, we've come to the point of we want things shorter and sweeter. There's really no room for an epic anymore. Not a whole lot anyway. People are needy. People need just give me all the information within a small chunk. there's no savoring it. There's no enjoying the ride, enjoying the adventure, because everybody's so in a rush and working their ass off, and family and friends and COVID and everything. So I love this movie for that purpose. He didn't rush it, and this may or may not be his last DC film. It seriously is. Um, so you never know. I don't know, but the hype right now, there's no telling. I'm happy you like it though, even if it's a 3 and well, it's a lot like not all the Batmobile scenes, but some do have slow mo. They do. It really does. So yeah, being a 4-hour movie, again, a lot of story. Long movies are awesome to me. Notably Titanic, Lord of the Rings, Avatar, Ten Commandments, just to name a few. Look, you give me a long movie and it's a good movie, you get what you pay for. That's what it is. Even if you had to break it up, watch it one night, watch another part another night. Personally, I'm a binger. Lately, people binge shows on Netflix like crazy. They will binge 1, 2 seasons a day, and yet people still complain about a 4-hour movie. That logic doesn't exactly equal out to me. Um, I mean, you know, what's going on there? I don't get it. But anyway, despite a movie's runtime, as long as they're well done, it's still an adventure. And my God, this movie is such an adventure. I cannot explain how much of an adventure this movie is. It's fantastic. Yeah, King Kong, exactly. It's good. 2005's King Kong, exactly. Um, although that one did have kind of some big odd scenes in it. Although I did like it, I really did. Especially Jack Black. Man, I love Jack Black. On note of a movie, the soundtrack in this movie, thanks to Junkie XL, Hans Zimmer, Rose Bell, and a couple other people, the fucking soundtrack is fantastic. Um, it's really, really fantastic. Oh, I need to do something. Hold on a minute. I got to put spoilers in the title because we're going to be talking about spoilers. So hold on. Let me get something fixed. I don't want people to be coming around thinking this is just a similar review. There will be spoilers, big time. So give me a minute. Totally forgot to do that before we got started. I really haven't gotten into anything here, but just in case. Totally forgot to do that. Whoop. Oh, sorry, y'all. Hold on. Spoilers. Okay, hold on. Let me copy. Save. Let me just get this edited right quick. The soundtrack, like I said, is awesome. There are a couple odd places to where some of the music is just kind of kind of odd. I don't know. It didn't really pull me out of the film, but it did kind of feel just odd. I don't know. I can't explain it. It seemed like some of the rhythm of the music didn't fully, probably 5% off, match what's happening in the scene. But that's a um, very minimal thing. So hold on, let me get this edit done. Okay, cool. All right. I just want to get that out of the way because again, people are gonna be watching this, and I don't want somewhere odd. And that was my first live action Jack Black movie. I was 5. I'm currently 22, and personally, it's still my favorite King Kong. It really was. I mean, it's got a lot of heart in it. I'm really digging the modern King Kong too. I can't wait for Godzilla vs Kong. That's coming out here in a couple of weeks. I can't wait for that. Okay, this movie happened. Zack Snyder's Justice League happened because of a show of support and a change in Hollywood. It's been mentioned several times in other reviews, but I'll mention it here. This has never happened with a film to come about in a way that fans push for. When fans stand up and show their voice as a collective, studios listen whether they like it or not. And I'm looking at you, Warner Brothers. Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, the changes in Sonic, and Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League is a primary example of that. The support for Zack Snyder, for this whole thing to happen, through the roof. Granted, part of the community does have, well, to put it bluntly, some toxic people. I'll acknowledge that, and that's mentioned a lot on Twitter. And unfortunately, it kind of gives the community a little bit of a bad name. Not overall, but there are some sections. But that's really with any community. Marvel fans, DC fans, whatever it may be, you're going to have sections of those communities that are just so anti whatever. And vice versa. There's a lot of people that love Zack Snyder, protect him by going off the rails, and there's people that hate Zack Snyder's work and they go after him by going off the rails. It happens. We're all human beings, especially in online behavior, which we're all can be, children in kindergarten playground. It's nuts. But this movie, I wanted to note that the original 2017 film, Snyder had to leave because his daughter committed suicide. He had to leave the project, so they brought in Joss Whedon. So because of a family tragedy, he had to step aside. But this film came about because of his passion and because of his love for his daughter, who was a DC fan herself. They shared this vision together in a lot of ways. And this movie to me is perfect because in the background, a tragedy had befallen the creator. And he came up with something and did something for the fans and for his daughter, for himself, and for what his vision he thought would be about. And this is just a reflection of that. So it's fantastic. All right, I gotta head out. Video, come back later. My girlfriend hasn't seen it yet. Later, dude. All right, see you later, Bet. Good to see you, man. But yeah, so my condolences, because that's a total tragedy. Her name was Autumn. At the end of the film, before the credits, you see For Autumn. For Autumn, and I cried a little bit. I teared up because you gotta know a little bit of the background. And again, Zack and his daughter Autumn, they're both huge comic book nerds. So total tragedy. But out of that tragedy, a man in darker ways probably was able to get something done that was never going to be done. And that's phenomenal. It's fantastic. I love it. So does the Snyder Cut count as an extended cut, a director's cut, or is it a totally different movie? And that's the thing, because the Justice League 2017 film was about a 2-hour movie, 2.5, 2.5 hour movie. But it wasn't Zack Snyder's full vision. It was just chunks of it manipulated by another creator and by the studio. What we get here in 2021 with Zack Snyder's Justice League is his, for the most part, full vision. There's still some stuff missing that he wasn't able to do. And there was also new stuff added. But it is a realization of what he wanted in a lot of ways. So does that make it a director's cut? Well, not really. Because it's not the original director, even though it was the original director that came on and started this whole thing that built this universe, the Snyderverse. Is it an extended cut? I guess it could technically qualify as an extended cut. This has kind of been going back and forth with fans online. How do you count this? But at the same time, it's a totally different movie with some of the same core concepts as the 2017 version. Although for all intents and purposes, there's a lot of scenes missing from the 2017 version because there was reshoots that Joss Whedon did, but Zack Snyder in this part came back and did his own as well. So it's it's all over the place. But I think it would qualify as an extended cut as well as a brand new movie. It's a bit of a weird area. So, as for the film, you get to the cast, you get to the characters. Cyborg is definitely a linchpin in the film, but the other League members are very important. Cyborg is very fleshed out in Justice League. He is it's so epic. well, I'll get more into it, but overall, his character arc is so amazing. We were, I'll say it straight up, we were robbed um, that this film didn't come out in 2017, or at least it's the similar that Zack was going to do. Originally, it was going to be about I think a two-parter, Justice League 1 and 2. Um, the first 2 hours are going to be one, the last 2 hours are going to be two, if I remember right. Don't hold me to that, but that's pretty much what was going to happen. But Cyborg and Flash are so fleshed out. It's so amazing. Um, it's so creative and it's just so awesome. I loved it. Um, this does touch on the core cyborg story between Vic Stone and his father. Victor Stone is cyborg. His phone is um, Silas Stone. Silas Stone. Um, Victor is very angry with his father because his father created Cyborg, basically. He just wanted to save his son. And because of that, he sees his father as a monster. And there's a lot of representations in that. If you're familiar with the story of Frankenstein, Silas is Dr. Frankenstein creating a monster. In the old film, or in the story for Frankenstein, he uses lightning, harness lightning, to bring about a living dead man, right? Dead person, collection of people, really. And essentially, that's the same thing that happens here. The mother boxes are used basically lightning in a bottle. They're fused with Cyborg. It creates a new body. Vic Stone is created. Um, and then the mother boxes go back to sleep. His father activates the mother box out of grief, out of a moment of need to have his son back, and it will haunt Vic for a while. But you see some fantastic progress in Cyborg becoming, in this reality, who he was meant to be, and how he saves humanity above all. It's just awesome. Um, he is he sees himself as a monster initially. And I related to this. I related to this part of the film because I was diagnosed bipolar. When you are bipolar, um, you do at times see yourself as a monster because when you don't know what you're dealing with, or if you don't know how to expect to react to people, or if you expect that you might get triggered or go off, you want to shelter away from people. You don't want to cause any harm, at least for me. And that's essentially what Vic goes through. He can't trust himself. He can't trust people because he sees himself as a monster. He doesn't know how to deal. So that hit with me. I saw that it probably wasn't intended in that way, but I think that feeling was there, and that's profound to me. Um, and it's just it's crazy how much they developed his character. It's fantastic. He, much like Aquaman, Aquaman communicates with sea creatures. Well, Vic does the same thing with machines, and that's always been the awesome thing about Cyborg. And they touch on this in the movie is that how he, for all intents and purposes, is the master of humanity because we're so reliant on technology. And Cyborg is the master of the domain of ones and zeros. He can do anything, be anything. And they really represent his memories, especially when it comes to accounting for where the mother box comes from and his own history. You see scenes of this in the movie as he's just walking through casually in his human form, reliving these memories via data in his brain. Phenomenal use of how they did that. It was fantastic. I loved it. It was so awesome. Um, it's just like it's like him walking through his own world, walking through all this data and these memories. I loved it. It was so awesome. Um, the mother boxes. Going to the mother boxes. I'm kind of all over the place here, so just bear with me. The Motherboxes, even though they created Vic in what was it when they fused with him, he becomes a cyborg. They don't have any higher intelligence in the film. It was represented in the 2017 version that the Motherboxes were calling to Steppenwolf. We'll get to that in a minute, but in there it was like the Motherboxes were sentient, but in the Snyder cut, they're not. They're tools for change. Um, Powerful tools for change, much science, much like any other tool of humanity. It can be used for good or evil. And the Motherboxes are the same thing. They are, for all intents and purposes, a neutral party in the film, and it blows my mind. I like that they touched on that. I really do, because I didn't so much agree with the 2017 version of their Motherboxes being sentient in a way. Although, again, with that version of Steppenwolf, he was crazy. He was nuts. Like, his brain snapped because he came to Earth, he got his ass whooped, he had to go crawling back, and so it just drove him nuts. He couldn't handle it because he had never known defeat. So his ego was obliterated, and it snapped. And so to that regard, he probably did see the Motherboxes as his way of redemption and his savior. And he probably thought at some point he was calling to him, but it's really more of a connection, because you even see it in the Snyder cut where he's able to sense the Motherboxes. Even people that have been around him, he can sense the Motherboxes on them. So, but they hold no higher intelligence, and I'm glad that they touched on that. That they're just machines, and I really do appreciate that. Um, Superman, Superman in this plays a major part, but the film overall, I would argue, is really more about the other League members. Um, Batman plays a great. Ben Affleck as Batman is perfect to me. You'll never convince me otherwise. I like Keaton. I like Kilmer. Kilmer was good, but overall, Ben Affleck as Batman, oh, perfect. Um, Wonder Woman is badass, just totally badass. She's kind of the mother of the group, as always. Flash, we'll get to Flash here in just a minute. Um, but Superman really, unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen more from him, but it worked out great. I mean, it was fantastic. His moments in it, and him and his coming back, his potential for snapping and being saved and everything. It was, again, kind of the same thing that happened in the 2017 version, but just more fleshed out in this version. Um, and it was so fantastic. But anyway, bringing him back in the Snyder cut is a majority idea. In the original 2017 version, Batman is trying to convince everybody that it's a good idea, and people are against him. He's got to persuade everybody. But in this one, the way it's presented, what I love about it is that it's a majority idea, and they have their doubts. And at the last minute, they kind of start getting, maybe we shouldn't do this. But unlike in the Justice League, where he has to persuade the group, here it's a majority idea to bring back Superman because he is going to be needed. He is, for lack of a better word, a god, much like Darkseid is. But it was just, I love that part of it. I didn't hate Wonder Woman 84. I actually really, really liked it. I loved it. It actually came about in a time in my life to where I needed to see something like that, and it gave me some hope. But what I loved about this Wonder Woman, like I mentioned earlier, was her being so much of a badass. It was fantastic. I love how Snyder represented her. And the Amazons. The Amazons were fantastic. Um, it was so awesome. It was so awesome. Um, there are some dynamics in the group that I really loved. First and foremost, as I mentioned before, Cyborg and Flash. That is a bromance. That is a straight up bromance. Um, it's just awesome how these two play off each other. It's fantastic. Bruce and Diana. as a couple. You see some hints of that in there, um, but it's only touched on literally. They, and they kind of withdraw a little bit. Um, but it was just so cool. There was some dynamics between Alfred and Diana, which was awesome. There's a scene of Alfred showing Diana how to make tea. It's really cool. Jeremy Irons as Alfred, epic, epic. I loved him. He's so grouchy. He's just done. He's so done. He's been through so much bullshit with Bruce over 20 years, and you see that in its character. It's so awesome. Um, when it comes to Flash, Ezra Miller, I agree with Grace Randolph, and to the point that he doesn't really, his running is kind of odd, but it works. But he does such a great job in here. He's a lot more fleshed out. The humor is fantastic. One scene is the Iris and Flash moment is spectacular, where he saves Iris. The song being played during that scene is "Song to the Siren." That's by Rose Betts. I had to look that up because I love the song. I've added it to my Spotify, but the overall scene is just awesome. I loved it so much, man. One other notable is Choi, Professor Choi, or Dr. Choi, who is a part of Star Labs, who may or may not be um, Captain Atom. Maybe at some point. He's been made director of nanotechnology. Makes sense. Um, but his humor, he's got a couple of pot shots in here, humor wise, and it's fantastic. The whole hottest thing on Earth scene, I laugh my ass off at that. I'm not gonna lie, because he's got a little bit of an ego and a little bit of humor, and it's fantastic. I loved it. Um, when it comes to Steppenwolf, what I mentioned earlier, there are huge differences between the Steppenwolf in the 2017 version and the one here. The one here is more complete. Um, the one in Justice League from 2017, shallow and crazed. That's it. Um, I felt hardly any depth aside from a little bit of just trying to redeem himself, or just to, prove that he's not crazy or whatever was going on there. It was so weird. Um, and the models that they used for the character, the Snyder cut is so much more badass. It is so much more badass. Overall, the Snyder Steppenwolf, deeper, he's needing to be validated by Darkseid. Darkseid is a father figure to this guy. He's a leader. He's his inspiration, his life, and he's trying to seek redemption. In some ways, I caught myself actually rooting for Steppenwolf. Um, he stands up to Desaad in one scene, and it was something to behold. I finally, in that scene where you see him confront Desaad and point at him, I kind of just went, dude, go tell him, preach, um, because Steppenwolf he's going through, and he's trying his best to redeem himself as a warrior, as a conqueror, not because of some crazed fascination with the Motherboxes. There's something deeper, something richer, more substance to it, and it's just fantastic. Speaking of Darkseid, holy shit! First time Darkseid has been represented in any cinematic form, on the big screen. So well done. So well done. His voice, dude, his voice was so awesome. It was so awesome. So well done. And just a great character overall, very powerful. I was a little disappointed that they didn't do the whole hands behind his back stance, because he's kind of known for that. But it seems this guy is more of a brawler, I would think. You do see Omega beams in the movie, which is awesome. But overall, just such a great character. It was just fantastic. Um, couple of other notable things. The Atlantians, again, different characters. I mentioned the Amazons earlier; they were fantastic. But the Atlantians, the Atlantians were really fleshed out in some of these scenes. You see how they communicate in two levels. Number one, underwater, and number two, when they're out of water. You see them talking like normal human beings, but when they're in the water, they're sending these signals and like clicks and just sound waves through the water. And it took me a minute to realize what that was. I thought it was just some background noise, but they were actually communicating in water. And it was a really cool, very, very, very fleshed out touch. The violence and bloodshed in this movie, there's no holding back on the brutality. For example, there is the showdown between Mira and Steppenwolf. Mira uses her Aquamancer powers to start draining fluids from Steppenwolf. They're in an open air position and they're draining. No, they're still in the water, and she's using her Aquamancer to drain water out of him. And you start seeing blood come out his nose and his mouth. It starts looking brutal. It starts looking like a fatality, but he eventually breaks it, and they go on fighting. But it was brutal. And you unfortunately didn't see a whole lot of that in the 2017 variant. There wasn't a whole lot of violence because they wanted to keep it family friendly-ish, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It was nuts. The chapters of the movie are actually a really nice touch. Really nice touch, especially for such an extended movie. Although the 4 hours just flew by. It really does. It just flew by. I didn't realize, like, it was right near the end when I realized, how long I had been watching. It was awesome. Barry, touching more on Flash, some more notes I had here. The way they used his speed was pretty fantastic. In the beginning, it was more utilization of helping situations instead of interacting and really fighting. But in the end, he ends up being a crucial part to making sure everything goes right. And it's a great use of his power. But the way they did him on screen, where he's just flicking back and forth, was fantastic. It was a great representation of what he would look like in a real setting, flipping back and forth. It was awesome. Batman had more gadgets. There is a gadget that Alfred actually cooks up. It was Bruce's idea, but Alfred is a jack of all trades in a bunch of arcs, but in the Snyder cut and even in Batman v Superman, he is just Bruce. There's a line in the movie to where Bruce says, "This is Alfred. I work for him," and that's about it. I mean, it's always a partnership with these two. Nobody works for either. And I've always loved the Alfred and Bruce dynamic. It's fantastic. But some great gadgets, some awesome gadgets, and you really see the usefulness in them too. It's awesome. The ending is an awesome touch. We'll get to that in a minute. But the film is a reminder that even though they're the same person, when it comes to Superman, Clark and Superman each have their own kryptonite. Lois, or Clark, and actual kryptonite for Superman, even though they're one and the same. But Lois is a kryptonite to Clark's heart. And you see that. You saw that in the 2017 version, and you see that here too. It's just more profound. And of course his mother. But Lois is the key. And I cried. I'm not gonna lie. I cried a few times in this film. But it was such a great use of Lois and her character and how much she means to the god of Earth, basically, which is Superman. That's fantastic. So Martian Manhunter does appear. He's in a couple of scenes and he plays a couple of key roles because he realizes what's going on, but he plays a role in the background for the most part. The design is fantastic. They took some liberties with his facial design, but he looks alien. So it works out great. But again, he plays more of a background role. The ending, again, it was an awesome touch. It seems solid for the future if that ever does happen. It subtly could hint at a Legion of Doom scenario, which would be fantastic. In fact, if there is or was to be a Justice League 2, I'd argue that they could go the Justice League Doom route and possibly another encounter with Darkseid in the third film, if that was to ever happen. Um, you could do a Justice League of Doom because you got Cheetah, you've got Deathstroke, you've got Joker, you've got Cheetah. You know, there's all kinds of stuff to play with there in a potential Justice League or Legion of Doom. So that could or couldn't happen. That I'm not entirely too sure. So some favorite lines from the movie that I loved. Again, one notable one was the one where Bruce is like, "This is Alfred. I work for him." It was awesome. Another was an exchange between Barry and Cyborg, where he mentioned she's 5,000 years old. Every guy is a younger guy because essentially Flash is asking Cyborg, like, "Hey man, you think she'd be into younger guys?" And Cyborg's just like, "Dude, she's 5,000 years old. Every guy's a younger guy." And I loved it because he's speaking so much truth. And it's lines like that that were really awesome. Overall, the film is an epic and an awesome realization for what Snyder has done for comic films. It's perfect, in my opinion. Um, it's a the whole project is and was the film, the creation. It's a testament of fan love and love of a father. It's just something exquisite and awesome. If I'm being honest, I feel a little more complete with this film having been done and released at this point. It's really, really awesome, and it feels like uh, something that should have been done a long time ago. But we have it, so that's something to be grateful for. So that's going to pretty much do it, man. I love this film. I really did, and I hope you guys get to watch it. If you're watching, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you think down below. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. It's, again, a bit of a ramble review. It's about 45 minutes long, but I wanted to share my thoughts on the film. I'm probably going to watch it a second time the next day or two, but it will become a part of my collection. And it is a great, even if it is a trilogy of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and finally ends with Justice League, if it remains that way, so be it. I hope not. I hope we get more Snyder films, but you never know. So it's such a great realization of his work, with everything his family tragedy went through. And as a fan, I loved it. It was again perfect. And I hope you guys feel the same. And don't let haters try to convince you otherwise and get you started on having to defend it. You don't need to defend liking this film if you do, or loving it even, or even loving the whole Snyderverse or DC in general, Marvel, whatever it may be. It's what you like, and that's okay. Stay safe, stay sane. Remember, you're awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. I'll see you next time. Peace. Oh, and a big shout out to Batfan and anybody else that was lurking during this stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you later.